Today I'm going to resume the same chapter of cell, the unit of life, and we have already completed till lysosome. Okay, let's move on to another cell organelle of endomembrane system. So vacuole is also a part of endomembrane system, and we know that vacuoles are nothing but membrane bound spaces, okay, which are found inside the cytoplasm. And basically each cell contains these vacuoles, as this contains either water, some saps, sometimes excretory products, or other materials also. And if they are not useful, they are stored in it. Okay. Now vacuoles are surrounded by a membrane. When we are saying membrane bound, it means it is covered by a membrane, and the term used for that membrane, single membrane, is known as tonoplast. Okay. And if you will compare the number of vacuoles found in animal cell and plant cells, you will find that the plant cells, okay, have vacuoles, and there is a single vacuole in the plant cell which is a large vacuole, and it is occupying about 90% of the cell volume. So in this picture, it is shown in this slide also, you can see that central vacuole is written, and this is the vacuole present in the plant cell which is close to nucleus, and it is occupying about 90% volume of the cell. Okay. But if you will look at the eukaryotic cell, the other one, animal cell especially, you will see vacuoles are present in it, but number is more and the size of vacuole is small in it. Okay. So this is the basic difference between plant and animal cells vacuole. Now the main function of vacuole is it helps, or as you can see that it is written here, that tonoplast facilitates the transport of ions and other material. The most important thing is against concentration gradients into the vacuole. So tonoplast is actually helping, it is a membrane which is helping in, or you can say facilitating in, the transport of all these materials, but against concentration gradient into the vacuole. Okay. So when I'm saying against concentration gradient, it simply means, for example, this is vacuole surrounded by single membrane, that is tonoplast. If it contains, okay, it already contains a molecule in high concentration, okay, but still there is more transport of this a molecule, or this a ion is taking place from outside means from cytoplasm to the cell vacuole. Okay. So it means that already this is present in the vacuole in high concentration, but still it is transported from the cytoplasm. Okay. So it shows that the transportation is taking place, but it is against concentration gradient. Okay. So this is about the function of vacuole present in higher organisms. Then again, when we talk about unicellular organisms, especially if we will talk about amoeba, you will see that vacuoles are found in them also, but these vacuoles are known as contractile vacuole, and their main function is excretion. Okay. And in some lower organisms, again like in protists, some vacuoles are present, but these are known as food vacuoles. And these food vacuoles, okay, these food vacuoles actually engulf the food particles. Okay. So in some organisms like amoeba, this vacuole is also known as contractile vacuole, as it expels or eliminates the 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 excretory material. And in some it is also known as food vacuoles, as it helps in, or you can say these are formed by engulfing the food particles. Okay. So this is about vacuole. Now moving on to another very important cell organelle, which is known as mitochondria. You all know that mitochondria are known as powerhouse of the cell also. Okay. So mitochondria, we call it powerhouse of the cell because it provides ATP to all the metabolic reactions which takes place in the cell. That is why this is referred as powerhouse of the cell. Okay, so if you will look at mitochondria, the shape and sizes are different in different type of cell, and even number of mitochondria per cell, each cell, the number of mitochondria also differs. Okay, and these mitochondria are sometimes, these are cylindrical in shape, these are sometimes sausage shaped. Okay, and diameter is 0.2 to 1.0 micron meter, and length is about 1.0 to 4.1 micron meter. Okay, so these are the basic dimensions of mitochondria. Now moving on to the internal structure of mitochondria, which is very important. Now if we will talk about mitochondria, okay, if you will look at mitochondria, you will see that mitochondria is a is having double membrane. Okay, so when I'm referring it as double membrane, it simply means double membrane here means inner and outer membrane. Okay, so if you will look at the outer membrane, okay, so if you will look at the outer membrane especially, you will find that the outer membrane is smooth. So this is the outer membrane, which is smooth. Inner membrane, if you will look at the inner membrane especially, you will find that inner membranes are having infoldings. Okay, so there are number of foldings present in the inner membrane, so that is why it is known as double membrane bound structure. So this is very important term. Okay, now these membranes divides all the lumen, you can say the compartments, into two aqueous compartments. One is known as outer compartment and another one is known as inner compartment. Okay, so this one is inner compartment, whereas the space between two membrane is the outer compartment. Okay, so always remember that inner compartment contains a jelly like fluid which is known as matrix. Okay, now inner membrane consists of number of foldings, or we can say infoldings, and these infoldings are known as cristae. Okay, and the basic function why these infoldings are present in the inner surface only, the reason is they help in increasing surface area. Okay, why they need to increase surface area? A very simple reason is there, that the inner membrane contains large number of these racket shaped structures. Okay, and these racket shaped structures are known as F0 F1 particle. So here you can see F0, the lower part is known as, the handle part is known as F0, you can remember like this, and the flat or the circular part is known as F1, so we call it F0 F1 particle. So just imagine in the inner surface, you can see it here clearly, that inner surface is filled with, or um, they contain large number of F0 F1 particles, and each F0 F1 particle is also known as oxysome. So there is another term for it which is known as oxysome. So F0 F1 particle and oxysomes are same. Okay, now moving on, now you can see that the RNA found in DNA, okay, there are 70S type of ribosomes present in it, and you know that the main function of ribosome is protein synthesis. Okay, and if we will say that mitochondria, the division of mitochondria takes place by fission. Okay, so this is all about the structure of mitochondria, so I'm repeating it once again, I hope you will understand. Okay, now it is a double membrane structure having outer and inner membrane. It has infoldings known as cristae. It has ribosomes which are 70S type. Okay, and a very important thing, that they have their own DNA. Okay, they have their own DNA. Okay, then the infoldings contains F0 F1 particles. Okay, which help in production of ATP, and these F0 F1 particles are also known as oxysomes. Okay, so that is why they are known as powerhouse of the cells. Okay, so main function, if my function is asked, you can mention that mitochondria are the sites of aerobic respiration and they produce energy in the form of ATP, and that's why they are known as powerhouse of the cell. Okay, now there is another term. Due to the presence of DNA, they are also known as semi autonomous. They are also known as semi autonomous structures. Okay, so because they have their own DNA, so uh, they can divide also. So that is why they are known as, they are not completely dependent upon the cell's nucleus or cell's DNA. Okay, so that is why, this is the reason they can divide on their own also. That is why semi autonomous means they are not dependent. Okay, autonomous. So mitochondria is known as semi autonomous structure. So sometime, and there is one more which we are going to discuss further, chloroplast. They are also known as semi autonomous because they also contain their own DNA. Okay, so sometimes it is asked that name two cell organelles which are semi autonomous. Okay, that is so there you have to write chloroplast and mitochondria are semi autonomous structures. Okay, now let's move on to the next one, plastids. We know that plastids are only found in plants. Okay, these are large sized and they can be observed through microscopes. Okay, and all these plasmids contains some type of pigments. Okay, we will discuss further what type of pigments are present in it. Now looking at the pigments, you will see that there are basically three types of plastids: chloroplast, okay, chloroplast, chromoplast and leucoplast. Okay, now these three are categorized on the basis of pigments present in them. If you will look at chloroplast, you will find that chloroplast only contains, okay, they only contain their basic, they only contain chlorophyll, as we have already discussed. Okay, and they have carotenoid pigments also, and their basic function was only one: they participate in photosynthesis by trapping light energy. Okay, next one is chromoplast. Chromo means color, plast means plastids. So this word is derived from, you can say, chromoplast is from colored plastids. Okay, so that's why they contain fat soluble carotenoid pigments. Okay, for example keratin, xanthophylls. Okay, that's why it gives a different color to the plants, that is yellow, orange or red color. Okay, now moving on to the leucoplast. So I hope now it is clear that why flowers have got different colors, because of the presence of chromoplast. Okay, so leucoplast are colorless plast, they don't give any color to the plant. Okay, and their function is only one: storage. Okay, so on the basis of their the material they store, they are again of three types. They can be amyloplast, they can be elioplast and they can be aleuroplast. Okay, so amyloplast stores starch, elioplast stores oil and fats, and aleuroplast stores proteins. Okay, so leucoplast are again of three types: amyloplast storing starch, elioplast storing oils and fats, aleuroplasts which stores proteins. Okay, I hope it is clear. So basic classification of plastids is chloroplast, chromoplast and leucoplast, and leucoplasts are again divided or classified on the basis of material they store: starch, oil, fats and store proteins. Okay, now moving on to the chloroplast, the most important plastids. Okay, now the one thing which you should remember is that they are also double membrane bound structures, and they are mostly found in mesophyll cells of the leaves. Okay, they can be lens shaped, they can be oval, they can be spherical. So these are the different shapes found in chloroplast, and sometimes they can be spiral, like in Spirogyra you have seen. In Spirogyra they are spiral in shape. Okay, the chloroplast is spiral in shape. So chloroplast can have different shapes in different types of cells. Okay, so length is 5 to 10 micron meter, width is 2 to 4 micron meter. Okay, and even their number can vary. That means the number of chloroplasts per cell can be different in different plant. Okay, now when we talk about the structure of chloroplast, these are again double membrane structure. This is a structure which is given in your NCERT also, so it is quite easy to understand. Okay, now you will see that they have got outer membrane, they have got inner membrane. Okay, and inside the chloroplast they have coin like structures. Okay, and the chloroplast is filled with a jelly like fluid, but here we don't call it matrix. There is another name for it and it is known as stroma. Okay, so chloroplast is filled with stroma and it contains number of these small coin like structures. Okay, and each one is known as, here each one coin like structure is known as thylakoid. Okay, and these pile of, okay, and these pile of structures are known as granum. So this whole pile is known as granum. Okay, one, just imagine one flat coin like structure is known as thylakoid. So I hope it is clear, and all these piles are connected with each other like a web, and these connections are known as stroma lamellae. Okay, so I hope it is clear. It is very easy to remember. Chloroplast is double membrane structure. It is filled with stroma. It contains flat membranous sacs known as thylakoids, and each pile of thylakoid is known as granum, and plural is grana. Okay, now these thylakoids are membranous sac-like structures. Okay, these are membranous sac-like structure, and inner side is known as lumen. Okay, and inside it chlorophyll pigments are present. Okay, so I hope it is clear now. If you will look at this, this is a more clear structure where you can see double membrane, thylakoid, lumen is shown through orange color, stroma is aqueous fluid filled inside it, and each membranous sac is known as thylakoid. The most important thing is ribosomes. Now ribosomes are 70S type. Okay, so now just remember this, that the chloroplast contain ribosomes which are 70S type. Okay, but in the cytoplasm of the plant cell, the ribosomes found are 80S type. Okay, so in the cytoplasm 80S type ribosomes are present, but in chloroplast 70S type of ribosomes are present. So this is very important. One more thing, semi-autonomous. I have already explained that chloroplast also contain their own DNA, so they are also known as semi-autonomous. Okay, structures. Now moving on to the ribosomes, we have already discussed a part of it. Now these small structures were first observed by George Palade in 1953. Okay, and these are non-membranous structures and they appear like granules, small particles. So that is why it is written here, these are non-membranous granular structures. Okay, and they consist of RNA and proteins. This is very important. They consist of RNA and proteins, and these were first observed by George Palade. Okay, now ribosomes are the protein factories. Okay, they are commonly known as protein factories as they help in protein synthesis. Okay, if you will look at ribosomes, ribosomes consist of two subunits which we have already discussed. Okay, a large subunit and a small subunit. Okay, and here also ribosomes present are 60S and 40S type. Large subunit is 60S. S stands for sedimentation coefficient. Okay, so together, that means small and large subunit together forms 80S ribosome. Okay, so this is very important, just learn it. In eukaryotic cells, we have got 80S type of ribosome. So the sedimentation coefficient differs. Okay, like in chloroplast it is 70S type, in cytoplasm it is 80S type, and their main function is everywhere it is same, that is to help in protein synthesis. Okay, so the common term used is they act as protein factories. Okay, now moving on to the cytoskeleton. Okay, now these are small long filament like structures which are made up of proteins, and they are all spread in a web like structure in the cytoplasm. Okay, and this is known as cytoskeleton. You can just remember it by one term, that is skeleton. Like skeleton is a framework which supports our body, in the same manner the cytoskeleton, these proteinaceous filaments, supports the internal structure of cytoplasm or cell. Okay, and it also provides mechanical support, it helps in motility, and also maintains the shape of cell. Okay, so this is cytoskeleton. Now moving on to the motility organs. Now we know that there are some structures which helps in providing motility, but cells don't move, but they help in other functions also. Okay, like cilia and flagella. These are two main uh, structures which helps in motility. Flagella is single whip like structure. Cilia looks like brush, small hairs which are present on the surface. Okay, so these are hair like outgrowth of the cell membrane. Okay, so cilia look like oars. Okay, like you must have seen in a boat, small structures are present, oars, which are used to take that boat in a particular direction. In the same manner cilia works. Okay, and it helps in the movement of cell or the surrounding fluid of the cell. Okay, flagella we have already discussed that these are responsible for the motility of the cell. Okay, now the internal structure, if you will look at the internal structure of flagellum and cilia, they have a very nice structure. You can look at here. If you this is a For example, this is a flagellum or cilia or cilium. Okay, if you will take a transverse section, the structure internally will appear like this. Okay, their core is known as axoneme. Okay, so the structure you are looking at is axoneme, and it has number of protein filaments which are known as microtubules. Okay, and just imagine, like you must have seen incense stick. In incense stick, thin polythene is present, and inside it number of incense sticks are present in parallel fashion. In the same manner, if you will look at them, they are also having this cilium and flagellum are also having microtubules running in parallel fashion. Okay, now if you will look at the axoneme, it has 9 pairs of doublets. Okay, 9 pairs of doublets. So if you will look at this, doublet means these two rings in a pair, so they are known as doublets. So this is a doublet. Okay, if you will start counting from one side, these are 9. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So these are 9 pairs of doublets. These are radially arranged. So outer doublets are known as peripheral microtubules because they are on the periphery or outer side. Peripheral microtubules, and a pair is present in the center. Okay, this is known as central microtubule. So this whole arrangement, okay, this whole arrangement is known as 9 plus 2 array. Okay, 9 plus 2 array. So the structure of cilium and flagellum can be explained as 9 plus 2 because 9 doublets are arranged on the periphery and 2 are present in the center. Okay, now we know that these central tubules are connected by bridges. Here you can see some bridges are present. Okay, these bridges are joining. So here you can see these are bridges. Okay, Now the central pair is enclosed in a central sheath. So here you can see this is a central sheath. Okay, and all the other doublets are connected through a radial spoke. Okay, so here you can see that all these pairs are further connected by a spoke to the central sheath. Okay, and all these doublets are also connected with each other. Okay, so just try to look at it carefully. You will see a green line connecting all these doublets. Okay, so these green lines are known as linkers. Okay, so cilium and flagellum basically they emerge from, or they grow from a centriole like structure which is known as basal body. Okay, so in previous chapter we have discussed that this is the basal body inside the cell, this is the hook, and this is the long structure which is known as filament. Okay, so these are the different structures of cilium or flagellum. Basal body, so this I am talking about basal body, then this is hook, and this is filament. Okay, if we will take a transverse section of this, we will find a structure like this. Okay, so now moving on to the centrosomes and centrioles. These are the cell organelles which are only present in animal cells, and they are absent in plant cells. Okay, these are non-membrane bound structures, and these are cylindrical structures. Okay, and they are known as centrioles. So if you will look at them carefully, you will find a structure like this. Okay, you will find two centrioles. Okay, this whole structure is known as centrosome. In this centrosome you can see a structure, and this these are perpendicularly arranged. Okay, and these are known as centrioles. So a centrosome contains two centrioles which are perpendicular to, or you can say that they lie perpendicular to each other. Okay, and they are made up of proteins known as tubulin. Okay, they are made up of tubulin. Okay, and here the you will see that if we will take a transverse, you can see the structure. This is a very interesting structure. It looks like a cartwheel also. Okay, so here if you will look at this, this is a centrosome which contains two centrioles very clearly shown. Okay, and they are perpendicular to each other. Okay, and they have parallelly arranged structures which are known as microtubules. So here these are parallelly arranged structures which are microtubules. These are parallelly arranged structures which are microtubules. Okay, and they also have same structure. They have peripheral microtubules, and they have central part also. Okay, so central part of the centriole is also proteinaceous, called as hub. So this is important. The central part is known as hub, and all the tubules which are present outside, they are known as radial spokes. All of them are made up of proteins. Okay, now let's come to function. What function they perform? Okay, number one, the first important function they perform is they form basal body of cilia or flagella. Second important function is they help during cell division by forming spindle fibers. Okay, so they form spindle fibers and they help in cell division in animal cells only. Okay, so now you must be thinking about the spindle fibers. All of them are spindle fibers. Okay, these spindle fibers have got chromosomes attached with them like this. So they help in cell division. This is just a rough diagram. You will understand it better in the cell division chapter. So these are chromosomes attached with it. Okay, so always remember one thing, that centrioles, or you can say centrosome, is one structure which contains two centrioles which lie perpendicular to each other. They are made up of proteins, and they have spindle. They help in formation of spindle fibers during cell division, okay, in animal cells. Okay, now moving on to the next. Okay, we have got the most important part of the cell, which is known as nucleus, which helps in controlling and coordination of various functions which takes place in the cell. Okay, and this structure was described for the first time by Robert Brown in 1831, and later on nucleus was stained by some basic dyes, and it was found that some thread-like structures appeared in it, and these thread-like structures were given a term, that is chromatin, by Fleming. Okay, so you know that normally every cell contains single nucleus, but sometimes they may have more than one nuclei. Okay, and sometimes there are some cells which are even they are not in the maturity, they are not having nucleus, but still they are performing all the functions. Okay, so it differs from cell to cell. Okay, let's discuss about the internal structure of the nucleus. Now moving on to the nucleus contains, okay, nuclear envelope. It is covered by nuclear envelope. It consists of it, or you can say it is filled with a matrix which is known as nucleoplasm. It contains thread-like structures which are known as chromatin, and it has a dense structure which is known as nucleolus. So beautiful diagram is shown here. You can see that the structure is shown. Okay, now here you can see outer cover is known as nuclear envelope, thread-like structures are known as chromatin, dense structure is known as nucleolus, and it is filled with nucleoplasm. Okay, close to nucleus is endoplasmic reticulum, which contains small granules on it. These are ribosomes. Okay, on nuclear envelope small gaps are present, and these gaps are known as nuclear pores. Okay, so these are the basic structures which we are going to discuss about. Now let's move on to the nuclear envelope first. Okay, now nuclear envelope is a double layer membrane structure. Okay, like you can see here, it is a double layered membrane, and these double layered membrane has got space in between. Okay, and this space is known as perinuclear space. Okay, perinuclear space. Then again, you know that this nuclear envelope forms a barrier. Okay, it forms barrier between cytoplasm and inside nucleus. Okay, so this acts as a barrier. Okay, now outer membrane again contains endoplasmic reticulum, or you can say it is in contact with endoplasmic reticulum outside. Here you can see outer membrane is in contact with endoplasmic reticulum, which can be SER or RER. Okay, and most of the time it bears ribosomes on it. Okay, nuclear envelope also have a very important structure, that is they have minute pores on it. Okay, they have minute pores, and these pores are known as nuclear pores. Okay, now these nuclear pores are responsible for the movement of RNA and protein between nucleus and cytoplasm. So if some proteins are required, they will move in. Okay, or if RNA, you know that DNA forms RNA, and this RNA then moves out through these pores. Okay, so the movement of, so these small pores forms the channels or passages for the movement of RNA and protein between nucleus as well as cytoplasm, between nucleus as well as, you can say, cytoplasm. Okay, so nuclear pore is very important. Then comes to chromatin. It is found that some thread-like structures are present inside the nucleus, and these thread-like structures, okay, all these thread-like structures are known as chromatin. Okay, here you can see this chromatin is present, and this chromatin is made up of nucleoprotein fibers. So we can call them a network of nucleoprotein fibers. Nucleo means they are made up of, their nature is nucleic acid and they are associated with proteins. So we call them nucleoprotein, and basically these chromatin are made up of DNA. Okay, so we can also say that they contain DNA, and the proteins are known as histones, and these basic proteins are known as histones. They also have another type of proteins known as non-histone proteins as well as RNA. So chromatin is made up of DNA, basic proteins, non-histone proteins and RNA. Okay, and before cell division, when cell division is not taking place, these appear as fine threads and they are known as chromatin. But as soon as cell division starts, before that it starts condensing. Okay, condensing means they before just before this they are thread like. Okay, they are thread like. Okay, but during the you can say during the before cell division, they start coiling up like this and they become thicker. Okay, and later on after some time they condense properly and they appear like chromosomes. Okay, so that is why don't get confused what is chromatin. You should know before cell division they appear like thread, so chromatin, and after sometimes they condense after coiling and during cell division and they appear thick and they become visible, they are known as chromosomes. Okay, then comes a thick, or you can say dense part inside nucleus. It is known as nucleolus. It is not covered by any membrane, so it is non-membranous spherical body. Okay, and it is, that is why we say it is continuous with the nucleoplasm. So this dense structure, purple structure in the center is nucleolus, and outside is known as, outside the matrix is present which is known as nucleolus. Okay, and it is a basic you can say that this is a location for ribosomal RNA synthesis. Okay, this is very very important. This is nucleolus is the site for ribosomal RNA. It is written as rRNA. Okay, it is written as rRNA. So rRNA, ribosomal RNA. So it is a site for the synthesis of ribosomal RNA synthesis. So this is very important function. Okay. Now moving on to the chromosomes. If you will look at the chromosomes, chromosomes have got, all of you know, 46 chromosomes are present inside our cell and they are present in 23 pairs. Okay, and every chromosome is little constricted in the center. Okay, if you will look at the structure, it is little constricted in the center. So this primary constriction, this primary constriction is known as centromere. Okay, so this primary constriction is known as, this is the primary constriction which is known as centromere, and on the primary constriction you can see a disc shaped structures on both the side. These are known as kinetochores. Okay, these kinetochores during cell division they attach to thread like structures like puppets. Okay, these are spindle fibers which pulls chromosomes while attaching to these kinetochores. So I am repeating it once again. These thread like structures are known as, they attached on this disc shaped structure, and this disc shaped structure is known as kinetochore. Kinetochore is always present in the centromere. Okay, and these two chromosomes are known as sister chromatids. Okay, sister chromatids. Now on the basis of the position of centromere, the chromosomes can be of different types. They can be metacentric, submetacentric, acrocentric and telocentric. Okay, so here you can see that if the centromere is present in the center, okay, it is known as metacentric chromosome. Okay, so here you can see this is metacentric chromosome, having two equal arms. Okay, if chromosome is present, okay, but away, it is centromere is near, it is not in the center, but it is little bit away from the center, okay, then it is known as submetacentric chromosome. Okay, in acrocentric, centromere is close to its end, forming one short and one very long arm. Here you can see this is acrocentric. Okay, in telocentric chromosomes, the centromere is in the tip, or you can see that it is at the terminal region. Okay, so here you can see very clearly metacentric, centromere in the center, submetacentric, little away from the center, acrocentric, it is little closer to the end, where arms look very short and one looks very long, and then comes the other one, telocentric, okay, which is at the terminal end. Okay, so this is about the position of centromere. And one more thing, that in some chromosomes sometimes there is secondary constriction present. Okay, and this secondary constriction is known as satellite. Okay, we call it satellite, and these satellites are made up of, obviously they are also made up of DNA, but they contain repetitive sequences of DNA. Okay, so we will discuss about this. Nitrogenous bases are present in DNA, and satellite contains repetitive sequences of these nitrogenous bases. So it is secondary constriction and found in only few chromosomes. Okay, so based on the position of centromere, we can have metacentric chromosome, submetacentric chromosome, acrocentric chromosome, and telocentric chromosome. Okay, now last is microbodies. There are some very small vesicles, okay, small spherical structures which are filled with enzymes. Okay, and these vesicles are known as microbodies. They are present in plant as well as animal cell. So if you will look at it, basically they are covered with plasma membrane, and they have a crystalline core, and these are known as microbodies. Okay, so if you will look at the plant and animal cell, you will find various differences, and after going through the number of organelles, you now know that basic differences are plant cells contains cell wall, they have cell wall present, but in animal cell it is absent. Plastids are present, but in animal cell these are absent. Vacuole is present, but only large central vacuole is present. Here in animal cell, very small vacuoles are present. Okay, centrioles are absent in plant cell, but centrioles are present in animal cell. So these are some basic differences in between plant and animal cell. Okay, so now let's recall the comparison between, or difference between, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell also. Okay, so if you will see the size of prokaryotic cells or eukaryotic cell, you will find that they are generally smaller in size. Okay, but eukaryotic cells are larger in size. Okay, genetic material is known as nucleoid in prokaryotic cells, but it is known as nucleus in eukaryotic cell. In prokaryotic cells, nuclear membrane is absent, but in eukaryotic cell, nuclear membrane is present. Okay, membrane bound, whatever cell organelles are present, they are not membrane bound. Okay, but here in eukaryotic cell, membrane bound organelles are present. Okay, in prokaryotic cell, plasmids are present, which are known as circular DNA, but in and they also have the DNA is circular, but in animal cells the DNA is linear, straight. Okay, in prokaryotic cell, very important, ribosomes are 70S types, but most of the animal cells have ribosomes in cytoplasm are 80S type. Okay, and 70S type are only present in plastids and mitochondria. So this is very important about ribosomes. Okay, so this is the basic difference. I hope it is clear. Now you will be able to understand the basic cell organelles present in the plant and animal cells, and the basic differences of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. So if you like this video, please subscribe it and uh, share it with other students, and it will make this part easier for them also. Thank you.